In 19th century Europe, the concept of nationalism was tightly bound to the geographic borders of nation-states. It was the idea that a single, unified identity naturally aligned with a specific piece of land. But looking at the Indian subcontinent during the same era reveals a completely different reality. The region was a vast tapestry of distinct classes, languages, and ethnic groups. People across these territories did not naturally possess a single shared national identity. That began to change with the outbreak of the First World War. The British colonial state financed its massive defense expenditure by heavily taxing Indians, while simultaneously forcing young men from rural villages into military service. Combined with severe crop failures and acute food shortages, these harsh policies introduced a shared sense of oppression across previously disconnected regions. Instead of offering relief after the war, the British government doubled down. In 1919, they hurriedly passed the Rowlatt Act. This sweeping legislation granted the colonial administration the power to arrest and detain any Indian for up to 2 years without a trial. The tension born from these oppressive measures reached a boiling point on April 13, 1919. A large crowd gathered at an enclosed ground called Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar. Many were villagers attending a local spring fair, completely unaware that martial law had been declared. British General Dyer ordered his troops to block the only exit and open fire on the peaceful crowd, killing hundreds. This shared outrage finally pulled the subcontinent's various groups into a single reactive front. But without a coordinated strategy or a method to focus that energy, the movement remained reactive, a series of disconnected protests rather than a single sustained national push. That voice emerged when Mahatma Gandhi returned to India from South Africa in 1915, bringing with him a revolutionary method of mass agitation, Satyagraha. Satyagraha, meaning truth force, was an active, non-violent methodology. It operated on the premise that if a cause was just, physical force was unnecessary. Instead of fighting the oppressor with weapons, a true satyagrahi sought to appeal directly to the oppressor's conscience. It was a strategy demanding immense discipline and courage, rather than a display of passive weakness. The core ideology driving this approach was outlined in Gandhi's 1909 book, Hind Swaraj. In it, he presented a stark reality. The British Empire was only able to rule over millions of Indians because Indians actively cooperated with their administration. Gandhi successfully tested this theory on a local scale. He organized peasant strikes against oppressive indigo planters in Champaran, helped farmers in Kedah demand tax relief after a crop failure, and mediated a bitter wage dispute for mill workers in Ahmedabad. With these localized victories proving the concept, Gandhi scaled the principles up to the national level by launching the Non-Cooperation movement. Students walked out of government schools, lawyers abandoned the courts, and citizens built massive bonfires out of imported British cloth. Satyagraha replaced private resentment with a visible, repeatable blueprint for resistance. It converted localized anger into a tool that any citizen, from a student to a mill worker, could utilize against the colonial state. However, unifying such a vast population proved incredibly difficult. Urban middle-class students leaving universities, Awith peasants fighting high land rents, and plantation workers in Assam demanding the right to leave their enclosed farmlands all interpreted the call to action differently. They each held distinct definitions of what freedom actually meant. These conflicting goals and a severe lack of discipline eventually fractured the movement. When a peaceful protest in the town of Chari Chara escalated into a deadly clash with police in February 1922, Gandhi concluded the masses were not yet ready and abruptly halted the campaign. The leaders of the struggle realized that a shared political ideology was insufficient to hold the country together. Bridging deep regional and class divides required a much stronger cultural glue. They embarked on a deliberate cultural revival, relying heavily on artists and writers. Abanindranath Tagore painted the iconic image of Bharat Mata, or Mother India, depicting the nation as a calm, spiritual, and ascetic figure. This gave the highly diverse population a single, unifying mother figure to rally behind. Simultaneously, Intellectuals like Rabindranath Tagore traveled across villages to collect traditional folklore, songs, and myths. By reviving these ancient stories, they aimed to restore pride in traditional culture and directly counter British claims of Indian backwardness. The movement also adopted physical symbols to bind the population together. The Swadeshi tricolor flag emerged as a standard of political resistance, while the spinning wheel, or charkha, became a powerful emblem of economic self-reliance. By deliberately engineering a shared cultural history and a unified visual language, these leaders manufactured a deep sense of collective belonging. This cultural foundation ensured that the idea of a united India could survive even when political campaigns stumbled. This newfound cultural unity allowed the movement to broaden its scope. In 1930, Gandhi targeted the salt tax, a policy that affected every Indian, regardless of caste or region, by marching to the coast to manually harvest salt from the sea. By 1942, the frustration with British stalling reached a critical mass. The failure of the Cripps mission to offer self-rule, coupled with the economic strain of a second global war, left the population with little patience for incremental change. Sensing the volatile mood, Gandhi and the Congress leadership launched the Quit India movement, demanding the complete and immediate withdrawal of the British. Gandhi issued a definitive directive to the Indian populace: do or die, triggering the largest and most unified mass mobilization of the entire freedom struggle. The Indian independence movement achieved more than the removal of a colonial power. It demonstrated that a modern nation is forged in the furnace of shared struggle, held together by a common philosophy, and reinforced by a conscious effort to create a collective sense of belonging.